Bonjour. Indigenous Kip Ritchie, Potawatomi and Dow. Good afternoon. My name is Kip Ritchie. I am the CEO of Potawatomi Ventures. We are the Economic Development Corporation for the Forest County Potawatomi community located in Crandon, Wisconsin. And I've had the honor of working for the tribe for almost 30 years. And the last 20 years with Potawatomi Ventures, and the last 2 years as CEO. So it's an honor and a privilege to be here. I also serve on the National Center Board, so on behalf of the Board of Directors, thank you for joining us here at RES, and hopefully you're having a fantastic week and learning a lot, creating lots of new relationships and meeting new people, and have a lot to take back home with you. So it's my honor to have this esteemed panel with me today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a moment, and then we'll get into some questions. So over here to my left, I have John Bunnell, Julio Martinez, and John Panamera. So why don't you get us started, John? Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and where you work, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about economic development.
Very good. Good day. My name is John Bunnell. I serve Pechanga Development Corporation as CFO. We are in Temecula, California, and sit adjacent to Pechanga Resort Casino.
Hi, everybody, and again, as Kip said, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. My name is Julio Martinez. I'm the CEO for Manoba Matson, which is the non-gaming investment arm of the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi. We're located in Southwest Michigan, near the Indiana border, and we run a portfolio of investments, off-reservation investments. Thank you.
Well, Chimai to everybody. Can you hear me? Chimai, everybody. I'm glad you guys were late to come to lunch, so now you have to listen to us, so that's nice. But appreciate it. I'm John Panamera. I'm the CEO of Command Holdings. We're owned by the Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation. Many of you know our gaming arm in Foxwoods. Had the honor of being an Impro Scholar winner and a 40 under 40 there, Kip, so appreciate being to get on the stage. I'm also the chairman of Natives of Kodiak, my village corp back home in Alaska, and the co-chair of the Native American Contractors Association. So awesome. Appreciate you having us, Kip.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. So first question for you. Indian country economic development has just exploded, in particular over the last, I want to say, 10 years. I've been fortunate to attend this event for the last 25 years, but would love to hear from you, your perspective on how you approach investment and diversification for the tribes you work for. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities between the three of you, but there's also a lot of differences and nuance about how you approach things. So maybe take 3-4 minutes and tell us a little bit about your approach and share that with our audience. John, we'll start with you.
Okay, at Pechanga Development Corp, we started off managing on behalf of the band Pechanga Gas Station. Then we branched out to the RV resort that's there adjacent to the casino. Later, we built out a small retail site called Great Oak Marketplace that's attached really to the gas station. And then in 2018, we branched out and bought an adjacent piece of land which had a hotel and a golf course on it, adjacent to Pechanga there, called Temecula Creek Inn. We also invested in 2017 and 18 with, as partners with 2 other tribes in a hospitality limited partnership. And then I've been there about 6+ years. We are now working on a piece of land that just went into trust, turning that into a mixed-use development with multifamily and tribal serving residential or retail. We closed a couple years ago on an investment called Pechanga Health Holdings, and in that what we're doing is working on opioid treatment clinics around Southern California. And then earlier this year we closed on an investment called Pechanga Storage Holdings, where we're buying self-storage across the US. So in my kind of work, I try to bring the board and the tribe a number of opportunities over time. I may get 10 a week. I might bring the board 2 a month. We try to screen through those and look for 1 or 2 really good opportunities that are sizable on an annual basis.
So at Minot, if you notice when I introduced, we don't use the word economic development, even though it is. We use the word investment to differentiate what is traditionally economic development for tribes. So I've worked for 30 years with tribes, over 30 years. And this is evolving, this strategy of going out into off-reservation investments. And that's what we focus on. So the strategy really for us is to buy good companies that are profitable and in sectors that we're interested in. So we then layer on the tribal preferences and the minority preferences and whatever other strategies we can add value to. But the focus is acquiring companies that are profitable, where we see the added benefit of being tribally owned, and that's really our core strategy. We're in a number of sectors, and so as we started to get bigger, these things develop, and then we try to find acquisitions, again, that are profitable and also add value across the companies, where we have synergistic effect across companies. So we have architects and engineers, which is our big sector. We added commercial real estate, brokerage and property management, and now added a construction element there. We have a large construction company that's the biggest in our portfolio, and we have 3 manufacturing companies. So all of those standalone are profitable without layering on the added benefit of being a tribe and the benefits come along with that. And so those are all very risky, direct investments, many of them using leverage, using borrowing to acquire them, which allows us to buy bigger companies with less cash out. A few years ago, in order to balance that risk, we also moved into commercial real estate, which is a much steadier, asset-driven type of investment. So that's where we are.
Yeah, Kip, so our kind of genesis for Command Holdings came after some of our tribal council wanted to get into federal contracting and diversification, right? So they said, hey, how are we going to get into federal contracting? We'll hire one of those Alaska Natives to do it pretty well, right? So here I am, right? So no, it was an interesting time, right? Because it was right around COVID, right? And so high-end gaming hospitality, which we all have a participation in here, is great when it's great. But when it's not great, it cannot be great, right? You had to learn it. We all had to learn how to close our doors for the first time in 30 years, right? You didn't even have locks on those doors because it was just a 24-hour operation. But we looked at it and came in and said, hey, how are we going to do this? We focused on federal contracting to begin, right? We're diversifying into some different areas. But ours was a little bit interesting because a lot of people have seen the growth at Command Holdings. I'm employee number 1. I got Cheeky, one of my teammates over there. Employee number 2, now we're up to over like 830 employees in the Fed sector in about a 3.5-year period, right? And so people think we just came in and bought into those contracts, but we actually only took a few $1 million investment and we're able to leverage that. And and I know we're going to talk about this a little later in our panel at 4 o'clock, so plug at that. But we actually went into the private equity market, right? And started to go out and look at different opportunities. One of the things that I'm very enamored with the leadership at Pequot is they look at sovereignty in a way of we have our sovereignty where we are, but when we're going out into the larger community and the larger business practices, we want to do commerce. We want to do good, quick trading where we understand UCC codes. We'll be able to really, adopt sometimes state laws if that LLC is in there. Now, I know that's not for everybody, and some people are like, whoa, above my pay grade, but it's something that they're comfortable with doing to make sure that the wheels of commerce have been able to come through there. But it's really been an amazing story and very exciting. We also were very proud that, again, as we were all looking at those times of COVID, the CARES Act, and I'm just going to call what happened. There was some disagreements on ANCs and Alaskans and, the tribes, but I've been able to see in the last 3 or 4 years a lot of coalescing about what it means to now be indigenous. And, I was really proud that Pequot said, hey, we're going to go out and find people that are good at what they do. Doesn't matter where they're from, what they're doing. I feel very blessed. I had mentioned IMPRO, the National Center, for being part of my development. I see Cognac, my ANC cousins out there that helped train me to get to where we are. And now we're paying it forward with succession plan, developments, and really now getting into markets that are good. What I'm extra excited about is now how do we play in this next investment market, right? How do we become those? We're already regional leaders. How do we now become national leaders, international? How do we get into the money game, right? Things that are a little more recessionary proof. A lot of us felt FedCon was going to be a little more recession proof. Well, last 2 months show you that things can change, right? So, but we'll save some of that for our later conversation at 4 o'clock.
Great, thank you. Thank you guys. I'm thinking about this year's theme for RES is Beyond Boundaries, right? And really stepping out as you think about this event and its impact on you, whether it's maybe an experience or even some advice that you may have for our attendees that maybe are first time or just getting started. What would you like to share with them? John, I'll start with you.
I would say when I started with Pechanga 6 years ago, there were so many people who just reached out to me and embraced me, right? Kip, yeah. They let me come visit Potawatomi, told me their story, what they're working on, helped me understand not just my insular little world at Pechanga, but what was happening in their world. There were other tribes who graciously embraced me, told me their story, showed me their path, and many of those things are things that I've, very graciously embraced, brought back home and shared with my board of directors, with council, with the tribal members, and said, here's what others are doing, and here are the parts of that I think work within our economics and within our governance.
Yeah, as I think about things like that, and we talk about what we're doing, all of us, it really takes a team to do that. So it's hard for tribes that are just starting or want to invest in alternative investments, which is what these are, to do what we're doing to start with. And I think there's ways that can be done with some managed products like private equity funds as opposed to direct investing in private equity, which is very risky and really requires human capital. You need some good people to do that. I think JP was talking about recruiting talented people and getting them on staff to make that work. I can't stress enough how important that is because this is very risky and it's easy to fail. And tribes historically don't like to fail and they make a mistake, but in private equity it happens. It's just part of the game. So being patient and having other avenues to access if you want to invest in alternative investments, in particular funds that'll let you outsource that risk a little bit.
Yeah, 2 things I'll add real quick. I agree with everything that my colleagues here are saying. 2 things. One, especially since we're sitting here at RES at the National Center, talk to people, network, get friends, get colleagues. Kip's a cousin, man. Forest Band of Potawatomi is somebody that was always very generous with knowledge sharing how they got there, both good and bad. I see Derek Watchman, our chairman here at the National Center, out there. I remember early day banking, Derek teaching me all kinds of things when he was working over at JP Morgan Chase. Chris James, right? When he was with the SBA, when he was with Treasury, CDFI. Make sure that you get to those colleagues and friendships because one, you never know where they're going to end up. Look at me, man. I was a dunderhead running around RES. Now all of a sudden they gave me a real job, so now I got to be responsible. No, I'm just kidding. But second, it just allows you because again, it might not be something you're into, but something else, somebody else. And that goes to my second point is learn how to get to know quickly. And what I mean by learn how to get to know quickly is you get a lot of opportunities, especially when you start to see success, of people coming at you with all kinds of amazing ideas. I got the greatest thing since sliced bread. I got this, I got that. But you got to make sure that in your leadership, you have a good strategic plan, know the direction you're going, and if it doesn't fit within that plan right now, tell them no. Maybe it would fit for one of your buddies and colleagues and say, hey, my sister over here is doing this kind of work. It's no for me, but I know somebody to connect you. And that'll pay back the other way because they can say, hey, well, I don't know what I'm doing here, but my friend JP does, right? So having that network, but getting to know will allow you to not continuously kind of get stuck in that muck and mire. It will allow you to be in the strategic areas you want to go, grow with the variables that you have and be able to execute and become an expert and really be defined on a few things. we don't like to do more than 4 or 5 things, because if not, the old GE model, I know those were great, but where you just buy any and everything, I don't know if that works in today's market, right? Because you're always trying to forecast, you're always trying to see what's coming next. You don't want to have the best typewriter company in the land of a computer, right? So you're always trying to forecast, and that's what our jobs up here on this panel are, is constantly looking at strategy, looking at trends, looking at what's coming next, because it is a major responsibility to be an economic driver and a person that employs a lot of people. It breaks my heart when I have to lay people off. I don't like it. We have to do what we have to do. But by forecasting, staying good at what you're good at, and really be able to defining that, and again, I just said it, but not getting so rigid that you're not willing to be malleable and adapt to the climate and what's going on, but being able to forecast, get to that, that's gonna save you so much heartache later on.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We've only got a few minutes left, but I'm thinking about obviously the time we're living in, right? New administration, very volatile market. We're seeing that happening in the stock exchange, and watching our 401ks, or maybe not watching them, right?
Yeah.
But
I lost my password.
It's an interesting time, and you could argue that look, stay in your lane, hunker down, or you could say these are times when opportunities are made, right? So, any thoughts, closing thoughts here on how you guys are reflecting on and dealing with and preparing for this future that we're living in, right?
I think for us, I just try to focus on, give me 10, 20 years. What are the types of businesses that I can look the members of Pechanga in the eye and go, this, I believe, will be a great business for you and your family 10, 20 years from now, because that's many of the types of things that I am trying to stay focused on. Not what's new, not what's sexy, not what's hot, not what we don't know. What will deliver good cash flows for the membership and help them and their families sustain.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, just long hold periods are great. So when you're going to invest in this kind of investment, you have to think long. We invest for 7 generations. Yep. That's way longer than I can even think about, but just very long runway for these investments can ride out instabilities. But when you look at instabilities, you also got to look for opportunities, because wherever there's instability, there is potential opportunity as well. So I think as part of what we do and sticking to our investment plan, JP talking about, it'll guide you through these instabilities in the market. And it's always good to keep your eyes out, because when these things happen, these disruptions actually uncover opportunities. So it's important to keep your eyes out, even in turbulent times.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. And I think in our panel later on, I really want us to kind of drive down into some opportunities, right? Instead of just the hold strategy. In some cases, yeah, I get that. But one thing I think I would like to add is, beyond borders here, isn't that the theme this year, Kip? Right? That means beyond borders of your reservation. That doesn't mean not going out and working with other tribes, working with ANCs, working with NHOs. What I'm really excited for, what I'm hoping is this recalibration of what the government is, because again, it's going to affect us, not just in like federal contracting, it's affecting our 638 contracts, it's affecting all that. How do we now also band together to make sure that we do commerce with each other? And make sure that we're going beyond our own boundaries, but looking at Indian country as a whole, looking throughout our community, because we're always going to be here. We've been here since time immemorial, and we're going 7 generations again, right? So we got to just keep rolling together. And so ways we can continue to bring together, and that's why things like this, like the Res and the National Center, are great to come together. Yes, it's a little fun, and we are going to get a little drunk for going home because we're in Vegas. But, it's actually, we're going to come back with a lot more connections, networking, and opportunities. So I'm really excited for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. This was really great. Really appreciate your insight. This conversation is going to continue at 3:30. We've got a panel. Also, we're going to have our very own, our COO, Jeff Johnson's going to join. So that'll be good, but please stop by. If you have to leave early, maybe you want to consider changing your flight. Maybe you want to stay another night, whatever it takes. You don't want to miss the rest of this conversation with these guys. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.